I just assumed I was a wimp and I should have trained harder.
I mean, that is pretty much was your tone. Yeah, you were just down on yourself.
It's really frustrating because people have limited time off. And so if you need 3 to 5 days to fully acclimatize, how the fuck are you supposed to visit Colorado?
And by people, I think you mean you.
Yes.
Welcome to This Fucking Trail, home to brutally honest takes on Texas trails, hiking hilarity, and all things adventure. I'm your MC, John, and I'm here to warn you, as usual, that this podcast is not for young children or anyone with a sensitivity to swears or strong opinions. And now over to the hiking hostess with the mostest, intrepid explorer, and affirmed potty mouth, not to mention my wife, Gabrielle.
Yep. That's me.
Now, today is a personal shit and opinions episode, a type of episode in which we explore deep into Gabrielle's fears, phobias, opinions, and stories about becoming the badass hiker that she is today. We'll also explore some of Gabrielle's stronger opinions about hiking in Texas and beyond. The goal of these personal sagas is to inspire you on your own hiking journey. And actually, today we're going to be talking about a trip that, if I'm correct, is actually your third annual Colorado summer trip.
You are indeed correct. Well done.
Excellent. I've been paying attention these last 3 years.
Yeah, so today is part of our Colorado mini-series as we deviate from talking about hiking in Texas, since it is currently far too hot to go do anything exciting in Texas. So today, kind of the purpose of this episode is just to talk trail and discuss different aspects of hiking in Colorado. We'll talk about different areas of Colorado, different hiking towns, and the best food spots. Things to know about hiking in Colorado, such as permitting, weather, parking, hikes to do, all from the perspective of an opinionated Texan, me.
Okay, well, I can't wait to dig into this, but before we get too far into all of the fun stuff, we do need to just take a moment and ask you a quick favor. So you know that we have a lot of fun recording these stories and conversations, and we hope very much that if you're hearing this, you are also having a good time. So if you're getting something out of this, whether it's educational or pure entertainment, it would really help us out if you took just a couple of seconds and left us a 5-star review. Liking and following is great as well. You want to make sure you don't miss an episode, but the reviews do a lot to get the word out. And if you're feeling just incredibly fucking generous, go ahead and scroll down to the show notes, click on the link to our Substack, and you can support the show more directly there. Okay, we're done. Back to the episode.
All right. So this was my biggest Colorado trip to date. I was hiking for 11 days. I covered a total of 101 miles and did 35,000 feet of elevation gain across a lot of different areas in Colorado. It was incredibly fun.
If I could whistle at those numbers, I would, but I can't whistle, so.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was a lot. I was tired by the end.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was tired by the end, and I was not even there.
Although, really thinking about it, I think the first half was the hardest part of the trip, and physically. And the second half, I did actually feel a little bit better. We'll get into why all that happened, and shortly here.
Yes, yeah, well, we can talk about how we're a couple of lowlanders.
Yes.
So, anyways, let's talk a little bit about the logistics of a trip like this. This is a massive undertaking for someone who doesn't have a Red Bull sponsorship. Just hint, hint, wink, wink, Red Bull, if you're listening. To put something like this together, there's a lot of moving parts.
There is. And actually, I was a little bit behind the ball planning this trip. And it was totally my fault. You need to have these sort of trips planned. You need to know where you want to go and where you want to stay 6 months in advance, because the moment those campgrounds open and various permits open, you need to be in line the minute those campsites open. Otherwise, you're not getting into the popular campsites. And I didn't do that. So I was actually a little bit behind the ball. We'll kind of talk about some different issues that I ran into. But normally I car camp when I go on these big expeditions. Is I'll take our Honda Pilot. I'll sleep out of there typically unless I'm backpacking. And so I can stay at campgrounds, which are not cheap in Colorado. I stayed at a KOA campsite and paid $75 a night for that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah. Things I wish I didn't know about our budget for these trips.
Yeah. The other place where I camped, it was like, I think one night was $59 and the rest of the nights were $40. So it is not cheap to camp in Colorado, but it's even worse to stay in a hotel.
Right. Well, for sure. Yeah. The prices for hotels in the mountains, especially if you're the closer in that you're booking these things, the more and more demand and prices go up. And the harder it is to even find a room that you want to stay in.
Exactly. So from here in Shirts, I drove to Albuquerque. That was a really long day. Stayed at a shitty hotel that smelled like pee. And then from there, I drove to Silverton, Colorado to do a trail called Ice Lake Trail. On the way there, I passed through Durango, which is a lot of people will probably be familiar with the town. It's a real touristy town. I think it's supposed to be really cute. I found it to be super touristy and busy. I really like small, cute towns, but there was so much traffic and so many people everywhere that I was not even tempted to stop.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between getting some of that small town feel and visiting a small town that used to be cute and now it's just a tourist trap.
Yeah, that's definitely what Durango felt like to me. So I didn't even bother to stop, which says a lot about a town.
Yeah. And you love a small town. I know this well. This has been a point of discussion many times.
Yes.
For us.
Yes. So I kept on my way, blazed through Durango as fast as I could onto Silverton. Now, because I had left from Albuquerque to Silverton is about a 5.5 hour drive. So I knew I wasn't going to get to the trailhead for Ice Lake, early. And I had read online that this is a super popular trailhead and that parking can be an issue. So I knew I may or may not be able to get a parking spot, but I decided I was going to try it anyhow. And I had a backup hike just in case all of the parking spots were taken at Ice Lake. So there was about 4 miles of gravel road to get to this trailhead. And when I got there, the entire parking lot was completely full, like cars jammed so close together. And this was not a small parking lot by any means. I don't know how many cars were in there, but there was probably more than 50. And I'm just like, holy fuck. I think it was about 11 that I got there because I left the hotel pretty early because I wanted to increase my chances of getting a parking spot. But you're allowed to park on certain parts of the road. So I was able to go through the lot, circle back around, and I got one of the last parking spots on the road. And I'm really glad that I did.
Was this the one where you were afraid you were going to get parked in, or was that?
No, that's another one.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Parking in Colorado is wild.
Parking in Colorado is just absolute nuts. From what I understand, not being able to find a parking spot is a commonplace problem. Like at the 14er trailheads, a lot of times they're gone by 5 a.m. Like you're getting to the trailhead at 3 or 4 a.m. just to get a fucking spot.
Yeah.
So it's a big issue if you're hiking out there. So keep that in mind if you're hiking in Colorado. You want to be to the trailhead early, and just depending on how popular the trailhead is, that might mean 4 a.m. It might mean 8 a.m. Actually, there's a trail called Hesse out in Colorado that I did, and I had heard that parking was a huge issue because the only parking that's allowed is along the road. There's no actual lot. And I got there, it was the middle of the week. I think I got there at about 6 a.m. and there was enough parking. There was still quite a few spots. But when I came back to the car at about 11, there were cars everywhere, like people coming down this dirt road, finding that there's no parking spaces, turning around and coming back. Like the minute somebody saw me walking, they're like, hey, are you leaving? And they followed me and waited for me to get in the car and leave so they could immediately duck in. It was crazy. It was just like a train of cars coming in, turning around and going back out, trying to find parking. It was wild.
Yeah. Don't want to be part of that train. Got to get there early.
Yes. So find out how popular your trail is and plan accordingly.
Okay. So let's talk about a trail here.
Yes. Ice Lake Trail. So my planned hike was advertised as about 7 miles. maybe 7.5. What I actually ended up clocking was 8.29 miles, so a little bit longer than I had thought, and I didn't go off trail, for the record.
I believe you. I didn't question you.
Well, I didn't want anybody to question my navigational skills and blame this on me. So it took me 4 hours and 10 minutes to do this trail. The ascent was a total of 2,749 feet, and this trail whipped my ass. So I got out of the car when I got the parking spot. I was so excited. I jump out of the car. I grab my pack as fast as I can. I haven't eaten lunch. I'd had some carbs. I'd been snacking on like fucking Funyuns in the car to keep me awake, and the Gardetto chips.
Oh boy.
I hadn't had anything healthy.
At least you had a little salt in you, I guess.
I had salt, but I hadn't drunk enough water because I had drunk my 1 bottle of water and I hadn't refilled it because I was in such a hurry to like get to the trailhead. So I jump out of the car, dehydrated, no quality food in my system, and I was just stoked to be back and hiking in Colorado. So I kind of basically ran to the trailhead.
Yeah.
Didn't take the time to eat anything of substance. And I think that kind of ended up biting me in the ass, if I'm honest. But I didn't realize it in the moment. So as I'm hiking along and having a really hard time, like I'm out of breath, I'm tired, I have a headache, I just don't feel strong at all, I was thinking that I hadn't trained enough for this trip because it was so physically challenging. Last year, in 2024, I had a great year of hiking. I have this vivid memory of doing this really difficult 16-mile hike, and I remember how good and how strong I felt on that hike. And so I decided I was going to train for this year's trip the same way I did for last year's trip, which is just doing a bunch of tire drags, really. And so as I'm heading up Ice Lake Trail and struggling, I thought, oh shit, I didn't train enough. Like I slacked off on my training. I should have done more tire drags. I should have done longer tire drags. Your whole fucking trip is going to be really hard because you dropped the ball in your training.
Now, I just want to take a moment here because I think people are hearing these tire drags and they're like, why are you doing tire drags? And I think what people need to know is obviously Colorado, there's a lot of up and down in a way that we here in Central Texas just don't have access to. You know, we're in a suburban area in Central Texas, and sure, there's the hill country, but the hills are not the mountains. It's a very different thing. And the great thing about tire drags for training is that they put your body physically into the sort of position, and they hit a lot of the same muscles that you use when you are hiking uphill. And so I think I kind of got into them because I have bad cramps in my legs. If I hike or run long enough, I'm just guaranteed to cramp. It doesn't matter what else I do. All I can do is train more for it, basically. And tire drags are one of the things that I found that really helps hit the muscles in the way that shaves off the worst of it. And then you got into them because you're doing these mountain hikes.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk actually quite a bit more in depth in an episode about training for mountain hiking and really get into the tire drags.
Yeah.
Because I think it's worth talking about, especially for us flatlanders. It does a lot of things, I think.
Yeah. Yep. We can get into it. I can get a little sciencey, but not today. Just wanted to say we're not just dragging tires around the neighborhood. Well, we are dragging tires around the neighborhood for fun, but
yes, indeed.
Anyways.
So going up Ice Lake Trail, I hit some waterfalls called Clear Creek Falls pretty quickly within about the first mile of the hike. The first 2 miles, like honestly, kind of unimpressive. If you've hiked in Colorado before and you've seen this kind of scenery with, the big tall trees, lots of green grass, water everywhere. So it was pretty, but wasn't quite what I was looking for. And then as I kept climbing, I hit this meadow basin. And I've seen meadows before in Colorado, but not like this. So it was surrounded on all sides by mountains. And so there's a lot of snowmelt coming down. And the vegetation in this meadow, I've never seen anything like it. It was these lush green plants that were coming up above my knee. Like, it wasn't just grass. I don't know what kind of plants these were. Maybe I should ask ChatGPT. But they were everywhere. They were in this whole meadow basin. And so you're walking through this really narrow trail. Like, it's less than a foot wide. These plants are flanking you on either side. Like they're so thick and so tall and so strong, you can't even pop off the trail to go to the bathroom. Like you have to stay on the trail. And there's wildflowers everywhere, and there's multiple waterfalls because you're surrounded by these peaks with all this snow melt, and there's flowers, and there's a stream running through this meadow. It fucking felt like I was in Rivendell. I've never seen such a beautiful place before. I loved it.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm pretty jealous about this one. This is one of those where I hear you talk about it. I'm like, boy, I would do that hike. I wouldn't mind being there for that one. Like we know that I probably couldn't hack it for this whole trip. But there are certain hikes where I'm like, I would do that one.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the hike, I told you, I'm worried I did the best hike on the first day.
Yeah.
Because it was so phenomenal. So you walk through this meadow for quite a while. Glorious the whole fucking way through. And then there's this short, fairly steep, at least it felt steep to me, climb to get up into another basin where Ice Lake is.
Yeah.
And I had seen pictures of Ice Lake online. And in the pictures, it was blue. Like light turquoise blue. But I kind of figured that some of the pictures were dressed up. They probably had filters on them or, enhanced in some sort of way, because online, they're like, there's no way that this lake is this blue color in real life.
Right.
And so I get up into this basin.
I mean, it looks fake. Like I've seen the pictures. It doesn't look real.
It doesn't. But I get up there and it's turquoise blue. It was the most incredible thing I have ever seen. Have you ever seen that Progressive commercial where Progressive's talking about, well, we can't help you from turning into your parents. What's the guy, the coach or whatever?
Yeah. They have whatever the psychologist who's trying to help these people who are turning into their parents. Yeah, that's the whole shtick.
And so in one of them, I think the coach's name is Rick.
Yeah.
There's a middle-aged man who's looking at some young kid in the store, and this young kid has dyed hair that's like dyed blue. And the coach Rick is like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And this middle-aged man is like kind of shaking a little bit, and then he finally goes,
yeah.
And that's what I felt like that was playing through my mind as I kind of just stare at this blue lake.
Yeah. Where it just feels like so jarring that you're like, have to call it out. Like, how?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sent me the pictures, and I was like, what filter did she put on these? Because it looks enhanced.
It does.
Just the plain old picture looks like someone did something to it.
It's so pretty. There was a lot of people there at the lake, a lot of different kinds of people. There was a big group of like college-looking students who looked like they had actually done a lake plunge, which
I'm assuming this lake's called Ice Lake, and I'm assuming it earns its name.
I didn't touch it because I was fucking freezing up there.
Yeah.
With the wind hitting me, I had, my windbreaker on, but I was freezing, so I didn't touch the water, but it's fed by snowmelt. So
it's a cold lake.
Yes. There were some people, I hope they didn't actually camp there, that somebody chased them away, because you're not allowed to camp right at the lake. They had a fucking tent, and they had a big old speaker, and they had a blow-up mattress, and they were taking stuff down as I got up there. But I'm like, who the fuck brings a big blow-up mattress and a large speaker on a little backpacking trip?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I kind of walked around the edge of the lake, explored it a little bit, and then I turned around and went back. And as I'm going back, I go back through the meadow. It's still fucking amazing going back. Normally I really dislike out and backs, but I didn't mind this. I didn't mind getting to go through the meadow again. It was just so glorious. But then once I got back through that meadow and I'm kind of on a more typical trail where there's lots of trees and stuff like that, I started to see these red tags for the Hard Rock 100 hanging off some of the trees. And I hadn't seen those on my way up.
Yeah.
And they're very distinctive. They're about maybe 6 inches long, 1 to 2 inches wide. And it says Hard Rock 100, which is an ultra marathon that's run out there. And I kept seeing them. I'm like, there's no way. Okay, maybe I missed one. But I'm counting like 5, 6, 7, 8 of these things as I walk along. There's no way I didn't see one of these. And I got out my phone and it shows me that I'm still on the trail. And I came up on this couple that was hiking and they were acting all confused too. And I was like, yeah, I didn't see these on my way up. And they're like, yeah, we didn't either. They must be marking the course right now. And so I looked up when the Hard Rock 100 race is run. It's toward the end of July, I believe. So the Hard Rock 100.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, let's explain what this is. Assume that I don't know what's involved in a race like this.
Okay.
Because mostly I don't. I sort of do, but I don't.
Okay. So it's called the Hard Rock 100-mile endurance run. So it's an ultra marathon that is a total of 102.5 miles in length. It starts and ends in Silverton, Colorado, and it travels through the towns of Telluride, Ouray, and the ghost town of Sherman. And they alternate what direction you run it in each year.
Ah, okay.
And I guess it makes a difference. There is a 66,394 feet total elevation change.
And for that reason, I'm out.
Yep. And the cutoff time for finishing this run is 48 hours.
Holy smokes.
Which is like, online, they're like, yeah, this is a generous cutoff time. But if you do that math, you have to do 28-minute miles and never have a break. Like, that is insane.
That's very fast for mountain hiking / running for 48 hours. That feels quite fast. Because I know normally when we hike, we're happy. Like, we're like ecstatic if we're doing 20-minute miles.
Yes.
Now, we're not in a hurry most of the time. We're not running, we're hiking. But also after, 8-10 hours of hiking, like I'm ready to go to bed. I sleep good.
Yes. So speaking of the time, current fastest performances are held by someone called Ludovic Pomerette. Did it in 21 hours, 33 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Courtney DeWalter did it in 26 hours, 11 minutes. And both of them set these records in 2024. So the average time required to finish this run in the direction that it was run in 2024 is 39 hours, 52 minutes, 11 seconds.
That feels very fast.
I know.
Wow.
I don't know what you do to train for that sort of thing. But anyhow, I thought that was a fun little bit of trivia. And I've heard of the Hard Rock 100 before. It's a very famous ultra run. And so I was actually kind of thrilled. Once I realized I wasn't actually off course, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool to get to see part of the course. And I'm hiking part of the course. And it's kicking my butt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine doing 102.5 miles of this.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
That's crazy. Well, the things people are capable of doing when they set their minds to it.
Yep.
And also spend years and years training and preparing.
And live
diligently.
in Colorado or places like Colorado.
Yes.
But at this point, we're just making excuses.
Anyways, so you finished the hike.
I finished the hike, but I did not feel good. I was exhausted. I had a raging headache. And I was really wishing that I would have done more training.
Yeah. And I want to kind of comment here, right? That not only had you gone into this hike not having had like solid food and water ahead of time, which normally I think you would do.
Yeah.
Typically. This was your first full day in Colorado, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
It was a half day in Colorado because I started out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay.
So in the morning you were in New Mexico and then you go and you hike in Colorado. Now, what's the elevation change from New Mexico to Colorado? Do you know?
I actually don't know that.
Yeah, probably a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fun fact about climbing mountains, especially in a place like Colorado where you've got mountain peaks exceeding 14,000 feet of elevation above sea level. If you don't spend time that high, it's real hard on the body because the air gets thinner, right? People will recall from elementary school that gravity is a thing. And gravity pulls the air down toward the earth. And so we've got a lot more oxygen and a lot more air down here nice and low in Texas. Way up high in Colorado, you get a lot less air. And
it's actually the pressure of oxygen that's different up at those high elevations. It's not like people say, oh, there's 69% less oxygen. And that's not like actually true. It has to do with pressure.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at is the air is thinner.
Mm-hmm.
as in there are fewer like particles of oxygen in any given like cubic foot. So when you breathe in, you're actually breathing in less air in total
Yeah.
for the same amount of effort. And your body gets used to that. The human body is amazing at adapting to situations. Unfortunately, it takes longer than a couple of hours.
Indeed. Yeah.
So I hope that didn't all sound condescending. I'm just trying to give you a hard time.
I get excited and I forget.
I know.
Honestly, I have lost my head like that twice in Colorado. Like the first time I did it was much worse. I like took off without my phone or the bivy stick or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I lose my head in Colorado.
Yeah. You know, it's understandable, but I have to tease you for it.
Of course. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a very good husband.
I said that's true. It's actually, I think that was in our vows, maybe. Anyways.
Well, let's talk a little bit about acclimatizing, especially as a flatlander like a Texan. Your body's going to need a little bit of time to adjust. So, according to the CDC, the acute process of acclimatization occurs over the first 3 to 5 days following you getting to this area of higher elevation. So, staying in Denver, staying in Colorado Springs, whatever, it's going to take 3 to 5 days for your body to kind of adjust to this. What happens during this phase is that there's a steady increase in ventilation, there is improved oxygenation, and there's changes in cerebral blood flow, and there's a decrease in your blood volume. So during the first few hours, your blood plasma volume can actually decrease by 10 to 25%. Your body does this intentionally to artificially boost the density of your red blood cells, known as hemoconcentration, which is kind of cool.
That is super cool, actually.
So this, in turn, increases your hematocrit, or the percentage of hemoglobin per unit of blood, which temporarily increases your body's ability to transport oxygen before it's had the chance to produce more red blood cells. So that's all happening in these first couple of days of being at a location of higher elevation. So some acclimatization to high altitude continues for weeks to months. And in those weeks and months, what you're going to experience is increased lung capacity and efficiency. Your body adapts by increasing lung volume and improving the efficiency of gas exchange in the lungs, which allows for better oxygen uptake. And then you'll get some enhanced oxygen transport. So what this means is that there is more red blood cells are produced, and these red blood cells carry oxygen throughout the body, which then improves oxygen delivery to tissues. And your respiratory muscle strength improves. So the respiratory muscles, your breathing muscles, adapt to the lower oxygen levels, potentially leading to better overall respiratory function.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of a big deal in endurance athletics, and actually a lot of really athletics in general, but especially any sort of endurance or high aerobic athletics. And essentially an athlete or anybody, but especially somebody who is, maybe pursuing athletic performance, who spends time living at high altitude, can gain a significant statistical advantage versus a comparable athlete who lives at low altitude because of the increased red blood cells and oxygen flow. And so I've read about this because I think it's fascinating, and I would love to be able to live at altitude actually for these reasons, because I feel like, I'm an amateur athlete, and I think I'll always be an amateur athlete, but it's fun to be able to perform well, to be able to run faster and longer. And so it's really fascinating. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people thought, oh, well, I should train at elevation. And that's actually backwards.
Yeah.
So the way that you really benefit is you live at elevation. So you get these acclimatizations, but then you train down where the air is thicker. And then suddenly your body is supercharged with oxygen because you're breathing so much more, and you have all of these extra red blood cells. And so suddenly you're like noticeably faster, and your endurance goes up really significantly. So I'm a huge nerd about this kind of stuff, so I love it.
Your nerdiness is showing.
Yes.
Can you tuck it away for right now?
I'll put it away for now. We'll bring it back another time.
Okay, thank you. Long story short, I struggled with the altitude for the first couple days of my trip, actually, and I just totally didn't realize it. I just assumed I was a wimp and I should have trained harder.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
That is, I think, pretty much was your tone. Yeah, that you were just down on yourself.
It's really frustrating because people have limited time off. And so, if you need 3 to 5 days to fully acclimatized. It's like, how the fuck are you supposed to visit Colorado, get in a bunch of hiking, and then get back home in any kind of reasonable time frame? Like 11 days is a shitload of time.
Yeah.
And I was feeling good, about the middle of it. I was feeling pretty strong. But that's, as I kind of have thought about this trip and how I felt, I've been really frustrated, because what if you have 3 days? You fly up there, you have 3 days to hike, and you come back down. You just feel like shit and garbage, and your performance is significantly reduced, I guess. I find it frustrating and unfair.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And by people, of course, I think you mean you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
obviously.
Anyways.
All right, anyhow, from Ice Lake, I drove to Ouray, which is my favorite small town ever. Like, kind of, I hope that we get to move to and live in Ouray at some point in our lives before it gets so big that it's ruined.
Yeah.
Which could definitely happen. I fell in love with this town when I visited with Celeste, our daughter, and my brother in June of this year.
Yeah.
It's called the Switzerland of America because it is so beautiful. So we visited in June of 2025. I was back by July. That's how much I fucking loved it.
Yeah. And you're definitely one for seeking the new experience, seeking the next thing that you haven't seen, that you haven't done. So when you're like, no, I'm going to go back to the same place that I spent a bunch of time a month ago. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm ready to go back right now. So the population of Ouray was 912 in 2024, which is really cool. I love that it's so tiny. It's a high alpine community sitting at 7,800 feet in elevation, and it sits in this geographic bowl that's formed by mountainsides. And these mountain peaks can be anywhere from 12,000 to 13,000 foot high. There's lots of creeks. There's lots of waterfalls all around Ouray. So you're down in this basin, and all around you're encircled by all these gorgeous peaks. It's fucking phenomenal. There's a lot of outdoor things to do in Ouray. I want to kind of talk about the city a little bit, because this is definitely a place to go see in Colorado if you can get out there. It's known for lots of jeeping and off-roading. There's lots of different routes. So some of the famous routes that you can do in your Jeep or your four-wheel drive vehicle of some sort is Imogene Pass, Yankee Boy Basin, and the Alpine Loop. So a lot of people go out there to kind of experience these loops in their Jeeps and such.
And are these all kind of like the crazy, terrifying hairpin turns, or is there sort of like entry level?
I don't think there's a ton of entry level out there. From my understanding, like, you better fucking know how to drive these cars, or you might want to consider getting a guide.
Gotcha.
I have one of my coworkers likes to go out there and do all these passes in his Jeep. And he's talked about how hairy some of these passes are.
Yeah. Now, we had fun doing a little bit of Jeeping one time, but I definitely feel differently about it. Like going through a narrow canyon, or like a steep, rugged road, or like driving through a wash, versus driving on a cliff's edge in the mountains. That
right.
I have different emotions in those situations.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun. Maybe like in a four-wheeler or something that's really tiny, but whatever. Not for us, that's okay. Lots of people like it.
Yeah.
Other things to do in Ouray, you can hike. There's hot springs. In the winter, there's ice climbing. So because there's so many waterfalls and they freeze solid in the winter, then you start doing ice climbing. There's Via Ferrata, and one of the really cool things out there, I don't know if this is common, but there's a Via Ferrata route that you can just go do. If you have equipment, you don't need to pay somebody. You don't need to pay to get on the route. You don't need to pay a guide to take you. You just go out and you do it.
That's awesome.
Which I know, a lot of us don't know how to do a Via Ferrata. We don't have the equipment, whatever.
Especially here in Texas, it's not really a thing.
Yeah. Do you want to explain what Via Ferrata is?
Well, I was going to ask you if you wanted to do the same thing.
Take it away.
Okay. It would have been great to actually have like done a translation to know exactly like sort of colloquially what it means, but essentially it's a sort of a cross between kind of like hiking and climbing, where you're going on these routes where you're essentially walking or like sort of half climbing like along cliffs and sometimes over the edge of cliffs. And you, the whole time, because the route is so dangerous or would be so dangerous to do otherwise, you are wearing a safety harness, like a climbing harness, and you are clipped in to like steel cables that have been pre-strung along the route. And so you'll have two clips so that even if one of them maybe has an issue, you've still got a backup, but also so that you can transfer, because of course for the steel cable to be strung, they have to have done a bunch of eye bolts into the rock walls. And so then you can kind of use your clips to transfer over those. But it's super cool. It's if you enjoy rugged hikes, if you enjoy a bit of a scramble, if you enjoy rock climbing, Via Ferrata is super fun, really gorgeous. We've done just like a very, very small, very short little bits of it just to kind of to know like the most basic amount about it, but very, very interested in doing a longer route.
Definitely. Other things that you can do in Ouray, there's canyoning. So actually, when I visited Ouray the first time, we canyoned and it was fantastic. So rappelling down these waterfalls, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So there's just lots of outdoor things to do in Ouray. And I actually loved it so much when I was there for the first time that we kind of started looking up house prices. This is something that my brother and I would do in the evenings wherever we were staying. We'd look up house prices for that area. And so the medium home price in Ouray is $850,000. But I really do think that's a median because when you look at the houses themselves, they're usually above a million. And I've seen them go up to 8 million in the area. I found one below $500,000. So yeah, very expensive area.
Just for those who aren't statistics nerds, median is different than average.
Yes.
It's not the average. It's just the amount that happens to fall in the middle based on the total number of houses available. So that means there's an equal number of houses that cost less than $850,000 as there are that cost more than $850,000. But what the average home price is may be completely different.
Yeah. When I was there on this trip, I was walking along a road, and this little stretch of road is where there's a bunch of mobile homes, and they don't look bad at all. And I saw one for sale, and so I took a picture of it. And then when I was eating my lunch that day, I did a bunch of searching to find this house, and it was listed for $170,000. I kid you not, I almost started crying in that restaurant. Like, oh my gosh, I want this house. I want to live there. It had a land rent thing where I guess like in Colorado, especially with mobile homes, you don't always own the land.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to pay rent on the land, but the house was selling for $170K.
Yeah.
And the land rent was only $700 and something dollars. I was like, oh my gosh, that's still so fucking cheap for out here. Can I go sign a contract right now?
I'm glad you didn't, because I don't know that we were quite ready to have two house payments at the same time.
Well, you had to live there. Part of the requirements for buying that house is you have to live there 8 months out of the year. There was a lot of requirements, but I guess you're lucky I came back.
I feel lucky. Okay, so you didn't move to Ouray, thank goodness, yet.
Not yet.
And you know, I'm going to say it's very pretty, and I'm not entirely opposed. I probably should visit before, we make that decision.
Great excuse to go back.
Got to make sure that they have good internet. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, that's fair. So I stayed at my KOA to the tune of $75 for that night. And the next day I hiked to Bridge of Heaven, which is a land bridge at 12,300 feet of elevation. We'll talk a little bit more about what it is in just a second. But this was supposed to be my really big hike of the trip because I was going to turn it into a loop. I was going to start at one trailhead and take a 20-mile loop back to another trailhead and then walk a couple miles back to my car. So my original plan, like I said, was about 20 miles and about 8,000 feet of elevation gain.
And this is why I don't come on these hikes.
Spoiler alert, I didn't do that, but I thought I could and I thought I would. But we all have delusions from time to time, don't we?
I think we all occasionally bite off a little more than we can chew.
You did say you thought I could do it when I was running this by you, creating my safety plan.
Yeah, I still feel like you're capable of it. I think maybe you need to be acclimatized.
Indeed. So after the way Ice Lake whipped my butt and with how the weather looked for that day, I decided, nope, there's no way that I am capable of doing 20 miles with 8,000 feet of elevation. And it's a really high hike as well. So I would have been up a little higher than I wanted to be later in the afternoon where those thunderstorms can move in. And you do not want to be on a ridgeline in Colorado when a thunderstorm moves in, because then your chances of getting struck by lightning go up astronomically.
Yes.
And I'm just not interested in getting hit by lightning.
Not worth it.
Yeah. Pretty risk averse when it comes to lightning. So instead, I decided to start at a trailhead called Old Horse Thief and go to the Bridge of Heaven and see how I felt.
Is there a new horse thief?
There is actually a new horse thief.
That's wonderful.
It's actually kind of funny. I found multiple trails in Ouray that were called Old Whatever. And then the new ones would just be called, like the new one is called Horse Thief Trail. They don't call it New Horse Thief Trail, but it is the new one.
That's sort of too bad.
It is. I'm like, why did y'all do this? But so I decided I was going to start at Old Horse Thief, go to Bridge of Heaven and see how I felt. And if I felt really amazing and was making really good time, then I would execute on my 20-mile plan. But I figured probably that wasn't going to happen. And I'm actually really glad, spoiler alert, like I said, I didn't do the loop. I did an out and back to Bridge of Heaven and back. But I'm really glad that I did that because the next day I started at the opposite end of where I was going to do this 20-mile loop and the trailhead's fucking closed. You're not allowed on the trail. So I don't know what I would have done if I had gotten, 16 miles into the hike and then they're like, oh yeah, this section of trail is closed.
Yeah, that would be sort of a real what the fuck moment.
I always carry stuff for an unexpected overnight, especially in Colorado, but doesn't mean it would be a comfortable overnight.
Yeah. And so is this, because I feel like this is something that for the most part in our hiking in Texas, we really haven't run into situations where like a trail is just randomly closed. But obviously we don't have the same kind of weather here.
So it was closed for trail repairs.
Okay.
Is what the sign said. And this is forest land, so it should have been posted on the National Forest webpage, which admittedly is a horrible website. You get so many broken links, so many 404 errors. It's really hard to know where to go. The site is fucking useless. But I was all over that site because actually my plan A was not to do Ice Lake Trail. My plan A was to do a hike called Blue Lake Trail in kind of the same area. And so I was all over the Forest Service website trying to figure out this closure, trying to figure out what area of Blue Lake it affected. So I was looking at all of the alerts, all of the closures, like fucking everything. And, so I wasn't looking for Bear Creek Trailhead, which is the one that ended up being closed, but I also didn't see a closure alert for it. So that was pretty irritating.
Yeah, that's very frustrating. Always annoying when you actually do your homework and someone has just failed to provide the information that you needed.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anyways, it all worked out.
It did. So starting up Old Horse Thief Trail, it was rough. This trail was not flat anywhere. Like it climbs 3,000 feet in 4 miles, which is pretty steep for anybody who can't figure that out.
Yeah, that's a lot of feet per mile.
It is. And I took it slow. I was like, I'm not going to kill myself on this hike. I'm going to go slow and steady. And man, I was going slow, but it still felt like absolute agony.
Yeah.
By the time I was done with the hike, Garmin said that I had gained 7,000 feet of elevation. So this hike ended up being a total of 12 and a half miles. It ended up taking me 7 hours and 22 minutes to do that 12 and a half miles. So I started at about 7,000 feet of elevation and then got up to the 12,300 feet up on Bridge of Heaven. So as I started out, there's lots of scree on the first part of Old Horse Thief Trail. The rocks are pretty reddish and the dirt underneath is pretty reddish, which is kind of standard for a lot of the mountains in Ouray, as they're this reddish color.
Okay.
And then as you gain more elevation, it turns into your kind of typical green Colorado look. There was lots of flowers. There are a lot of wildflowers in Colorado in July and August a lot of times. July is probably the best month for wildflower viewing. So there were quite a few little wildflowers sprinkled across all the mountain slopes. There's a lot of backpackers. I ran across a lot of tents out there. I kind of wished I was brave enough to backpack out there, but also was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so high. And then there was little groups of trees. I'd go through little groves of trees periodically, but it definitely wasn't like a super forested hike.
And when you're saying they're so high, you just mean elevation.
Yes, of course.
Now, it is Colorado.
Yes.
Hard to say.
So like I said, Bridge of Heaven is a land bridge. So it's this narrow ridge. And so as you go across this strip of land, like it's not narrow to the point that you think you're going to topple off and fall off either side. The mountain slopes away on both sides. And so you get these phenomenal views to the mountains on both the left and the right side. You'll get views of the Cimarron Range, Sneffels Range, the Ironton and Red Mountain Pass. Just a great place to soak up a 360-degree view of the mountains in the area.
Nice. Very nice.
I really want to do what's called Devil's Causeway in Colorado. It's actually a legit narrow land bridge, like 3 foot across. Yeah. And like, it's not a mountain slope. It's a cliff drop off on either edge. And I haven't been brave enough to do that. So doing Bridge of Heaven kind of felt like a nice compromise, a nice warm up to get me there. Maybe I'll do Devil's Causeway next year.
Yeah, feels like they're aptly named, these two. Bridge of Heaven, a little more welcoming, nice and wide. Feels very safe, very beautiful. Devil's Causeway, no, you definitely could die very easily.
Yeah. I kind of sat up there for quite a while, and then I decided, you know what? I don't want to do the whole loop. I'm going to go back the way I came. And so I did. And I walked back to a restaurant called Gold Belt Bar and Grill because I had been there in June with my brother and Celeste. And we went there once. It was our last night when we were there. And I got a burger, and the burger was good. But my brother got this crispy chicken sandwich that just looked so good that I wished I had ordered it. And so after this 12.5-mile hike, I didn't even go back to the car because I had parked a little bit, about half a mile away from the trailhead.
Now, I have to ask before we get into this chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Because I know you're going to be raving about it. But I got to ask how the way down was. Because I like descending, personally.
Oh my gosh, I hate descending so much. I appreciate that I'm not out of breath when I descend. But other than that, the process is fucking painful. Like my quads hurt. My feet typically end up hurting. My toes will often hurt. I don't go very fast, like a little bit faster, but not a lot faster than when I'm ascending.
I had to ask because this is very steep. Like
it is.
It's a steep ascent. It's therefore a steep descent as well.
The descent was actually pretty painful, especially on my feet. I don't know why my feet started to hurt so much, but like the balls of my feet were really, really hurting as I kind of got down into those last sections. So yeah, descending is not my favorite, and it was definitely a challenge.
This is a challenging one.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair warning to people.
Yeah.
If they do this hike. Okay. Bright side, you survive the descent. You can go to the Gold Belt Bar and Grill, and you can have a chicken sandwich and onion rings.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking about. Like those last 3 miles as they were getting more painful, I'm just like, hurry up. So you go get that chicken sandwich, find out that it's really amazing. So yeah, that was the only thing on my mind as I was descending.
Did it disappoint or did it meet your expectations?
It met my expectation. It was so good. So like the bun is fucking delicious. The chicken was great. I ended up getting onion rings. And they're like the beer battered kind, which I really like. So I don't find a lot of onion rings that I like. The ranch was great. It was just, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure, the hike didn't hurt it.
Well, okay. I didn't tell you the full story. The night before, so dinner the night before, I had also gone to Gold Belt Bar and Grill for a chicken sandwich and fries. So I already knew that it was good. I'd had it for dinner. And then I went, and I wasn't starving for dinner. And then I went back for lunch the next day and got the same thing, except I switched out the fries for onion rings.
And the truth comes out.
So yeah, if you're ever in Ouray, Gold Belt Bar and Grill was definitely the best restaurant that I ran across. We checked out quite a few when I was there in June. They were all good, but I will just say the only restaurant that I went to in Ouray when I was by myself was Gold Built Bar and Grill.
And the only thing you ate there was chicken sandwiches.
No, that's not true. We'll get to that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm as invested in the food story here as I am in the hiking story now.
Oh, hell yeah. This is why you have to check out little towns, is not just for the scenery, but then also the things that makes them, for the character and the quality. But so later that day, I did what's called Box Canyon. So Box Canyon is a deep, narrow gorge that's carved by Canyon Creek, where the creek narrows, and then it creates this 100-foot waterfall that kind of plunges through literally a box canyon. So this waterfall kind of makes some turns in the canyon. Amazing, incredible. I'm going to do a video compilation of Box Canyon, so stay tuned on YouTube for that video. But it's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
Very cool. Looking forward to seeing that myself. There's so much footage from these trips. I haven't even seen it all yet.
Yeah. It's a lot to get through. So I'm trying to just compile it and show y'all the best of it and not all the nonsense. So the next day, I went to go do Bear Creek Trail, which again was where I was supposed to end my other hike, and found that it was closed. So what I did instead was I did Twin Peaks Trail. And I had planned on doing Twin Peaks Trail, but I had planned on doing it the next day. And kind of the fun thing with Twin Peaks Trail is I couldn't find the trailhead. So I wasn't sure where I was going to park for this hike because I was going to access the trail kind of from the side and it didn't seem like there was a parking lot. So I parked in this big lot where a lot of the people who rent out their Jeeps and their off-roading vehicles will park. And so there will be like trailers and shit in this big old lot. But I got there really early, and so there wasn't a ton of vehicles in there, and it's a gravel lot, and there's no parking lines. And I'm like, I don't know where to park. Like, I don't want to be in people's way where they can't, like, get their vehicles in and out, but I also don't want to get parked in.
Right.
And so I kind of, like, went to the back, and I parked sideways, thinking, okay, I'll be able to get out. And then I started walking up to go to try to find the trailhead. And the trailhead was fucking on private property. I think it was one of the old trailheads because it was all fenced off and there was warnings about explosives because there was construction and stuff going on.
Boy.
So there's no way to access that trailhead. But then I see another trailhead that I can take to get to Twin Peaks Trail, but I couldn't find that trailhead. So I'm walking around this neighborhood with these beautiful houses, and I see a for sale sign on one of them. So I take a picture of it. At lunch that day, I looked it up. It's a $5 million single-story home.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We won't be moving to that one.
We will not. I finally found a way to get to this trail. I got onto the Perimeter Trail, which is a really famous trail that goes around the perimeter of Ouray.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like this 6-mile trail. We'll talk about it another time. But I got on that. And what you need to know is that I had done it in June, the Perimeter Trail in June with Eli and Celeste. And so I'm walking a little, like half a mile on the Perimeter Trail and approaching where Twin Peaks Trail is supposed to be. And I'm like, I remember walking past this and I don't remember seeing a trail branching off the direction I'm supposed to be going because I'm walking straight toward like a steep mountain slope.
Yeah.
And the trail's supposed to be right after a bridge. I cross this bridge and I'm looking to the left and like, oh my gosh, I see this faint trail. And so I start walking up the side of this very steep mountain, scrambling a little bit. I think it may have been one of the old trails as well because it was very faint. It was very overgrown, incredibly steep. I didn't see anybody else up there. And like I said, you would walk by this trail and not even know it's there unless you're very purposely looking for it and knowing that it's there.
So you would describe this as an unmaintained trail, I suppose.
I would.
Yeah.
As I'm walking up Twin Peaks Trail, I can see my car down in the lot because I'm getting so high. And I start to see people starting to park. And I'm like, I hope I don't get parked in. And there's just more and more vehicles parking until there's only one way for me to get out with my car. And if somebody parks there, I'm going to be trapped. And I'm like, I need to leave Ouray because I was going to be changing locations, going over to Rifle Falls State Park. I'm trying to hike and trying to enjoy it. And all I can do is keep looking at my car until I finally decided, nope, I'm not having fun. I'm too worried that I'm going to get parked on. I need to go. So I turned around. I did not get up to Twin Peaks, but I went back to the car and was able to get out.
Well, thank goodness for that.
And then can you guess, we want to take a wild guess at where I went?
Would it happen to be, and this is a shot in the dark, the Gold Bell Bar and Grill?
Ding, ding, ding. You're right. Well
Man,
done.
Thank you. What do I win?
My eternal love.
Oh, well, I'll take it. I accept.
I'd had 2 chicken sandwiches at this point, and they were really good. But I had seen people eating pizza, and the pizza looked really good too. So I decided to be a little wild and get a pizza instead of a chicken sandwich.
That's crazy.
So crazy. And I get this whole ass pizza because they don't sell personal pizzas. And let's be real, even if they had, I wouldn't have ordered a personal pizza.
Yeah.
And the waiters there are pretty cute. Not gonna lie.
I've changed my mind. We're not moving to it.
So I'm sitting there like shoveling pizza down my face as fast as I can. And I'm so high on life. I'm so happy. Just have this stupid grin on my face. And this cute waiter comes up and asks me how everything is. As soon as I've stuffed a ungodly bite in my mouth, and all I could do was grin and nod my head at him. I couldn't say anything else. And instead of feeling embarrassed, like normally I would feel very embarrassed if a cute guy asked me a question and I have just like done the most unladylike thing that I could do. And I just laughed. It felt like such a freeing moment to actually see the moment as funny and to not give a shit that I looked like an uncivilized heathen.
Well, I'm happy for you for that reason. But yeah, we're not going to move to it right now. So.
Well, I don't know what to say about that.
Anyways, I think that's the end of your trip in Ouray.
Yes, not the end of the Colorado trip, but this ends our first segment of this Colorado trip.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that's a good place to call it part 1 of this trip review. And I guess we'll have to pick up with part 2 in Rifle Falls.
Yes, we will. Until then, happy hiking.